Hi, Timeusb just sent in this 12 volts 50 amp hours lithium iron phosphate or LiFePO battery for me to review. Just by casual searching, this is actually one of the cheapest 12 volts 50 amp hours LiFePO battery you can find on the market right now. In this video, we're going to verify the battery's specifications, and I will also open it up and take a look inside. So be sure to watch till the end. Also, as usual, I will leave a product link in the video description below for those who are interested in this battery. According to the manual, this battery has a built-in 50 amps BMS, which is typical for a 50 amp hours battery. It can be charged and discharged at 50 amps continuously and has a surge current of 250 amps for 1 second. Also, it has low temperature charging protection. LiFePO batteries cannot be safely charged when the temperature is below freezing, so having a low temperature charging cutoff protection gives you the peace of mind. In my opinion, all LiFePO batteries should have this feature, as it's pretty cheap to add a thermistor and the associated control circuitry for low temperature protection. There's really no excuse not to do that, in my opinion, even for the cheapest batteries. The cycle life is specified at more than 4,000 cycles, which is most of these batteries are rated for. Now, obviously we won't be able to verify that claim in this video, but I will use this battery regularly, and I may do a follow-up video in a few years if there are any signs of abnormal degradation. The battery comes with this folder, you can see here, and it does have an instruction manual, so let's take a quick look. So in this instruction manual, let's just take a look here. It has the specifications of the battery. You can see here we have the cycle life more than 4,000 times, and we have the maximum continuous charging current 50 amps, discharging current 50 amps, and peak current is 60 amps, and also surge current is 250 amps for 1 second. So all the information you need to know about the battery is here. And you can also see that it talks about the charging method. It gives you the charging characteristics. It also tells you how to connect the batteries, both in series and in parallel. And just like most of the LiFePO batteries, you can connect up to 4 in series and 4 in parallel, with a total of 16 batteries. So that's pretty typical stuff. And in this folder, you also have a quick getting started guide. It is essentially just a card. You can see that we have all the basic information on how to operate the battery here. Now, the cartoon character is just a little bit silly. What else do we have? You also get these stickers. I'm not sure why a lot of the manufacturers give you stickers. If you really want to, you can put these on your battery. Oh, I just realized on the battery, let me zoom it in, you can see here, it says time full of energy, useful, stable, and blissful. I suppose that's what Timeusb stands for. A little bit too much in my opinion. Now let's test out the battery capacity. To do that, I first fully charge up the battery. The battery was capped at roughly 50% of charge during shipping. At first, I charged at 0.2 C or 10 amps. To speed things up a little bit, I changed it to 0.4 C or 20 amps 10 minutes in. And from the thermal image I took an hour into the charging cycle, you can barely notice any rise in temperature. In this captured thermal image, you can see that there is a spot that is a little bit warmer than any other areas. Now, I suspect that's where the BMS is located. We'll verify that when I open up the battery later. For the discharging test, I chose the standard 0.1 C discharge rate, which is 5 amps, using my electronic loads battery testing feature. Now, one benefit of these LiFePO batteries is that the discharge curve is fairly flat compared to other battery chemistries. So the terminal voltage does not drop significantly until the very end of the discharging cycle. Alright, the discharging test had completed. Now, I didn't capture the exact moment of the cutoff. As you can see here, the measured capacity is almost exactly 50 amp hours. It is a few milliamp hours under, but well within the statistical tolerance of 50 amp hours. So I would say the Timeusb battery meets its specified capacity rating, although just barely. Now, it would be interesting to see what kind of cells they're using inside of this battery, which we'll take a look later in our teardown. Also, this time the BMS actually cut out first. As you can see, the terminal voltage right now is just above 1 volt. Okay, so let me charge up the battery again, and we'll do some load testing. According to the manual, the battery can sustain 50 amps discharging current continuously, so let me verify that with this setup. Here, I have connected an inverter to the battery, and I'm using a variac to control the output from the inverter, so I can adjust the load more precisely. The load I'm using is an electric heater. And here I have a clamp meter that is measuring the battery output current and also a multimeter to monitor the terminal voltage. Let me actually zero out the reading here. Alright, let me power on the inverter. It takes a few seconds. And let me turn on the variac. So now I'll increase the voltage. And you can probably hear the heater had started. So once it reaches 50 amps, I'm going to let it run for a few minutes. It looks like the BMS had actually cut off. As you can see here, we're only outputting 2 volts now. And the current did briefly exceed the 60 amp mark. So I guess I'll have to wait a few minutes for the battery to recover. So I suppose that's a good test of the BMS over current protection. Yeah, you can see that it only took a few minutes for the battery to recover. So it appears that we are not able to get much higher than the 50 amps maximum current. So let's actually do that again. So let's actually be a little bit more conservative here, as I don't want it to cut off. So I'll just make sure it stays under 50 amps. And I'll let it run for a few minutes. And I had let it run for at least 5 minutes now. Everything holds up pretty well. And I did take a thermal image. You can see that we have a hot spot right around here, and that's where the BMS is. The maximum pulsed discharge current is rated at 250 amps for 1 second. So the battery should be able to power the heater continuously and able to start an electric drill simultaneously. The starting current of the drill is roughly at 15 amps on the 120 volt side, which translates into approximately 160 to 170 amps on the battery side. So this setup will bring it very close to the maximum rated inrush current of the battery. Let's give it a go. So here's the drill that's connected directly to the inverter. And you can see no problem at all. So of course I wouldn't be able to run a drill, but the starting current along with the current draw from the heater definitely would be at least 200 amps. The manual specified that the battery's internal resistance is less than 40 milliohms. So now I'm actually using my Finersi HRM10 internal resistance meter to verify that. You can see the measured resistance is at 6.4 milliohms, which is excellent. If you want to learn a little bit more about this HRM10 Finersi internal resistance tester, you can check out my review video linked in the description below. Now it's the moment you guys are all waiting for. I'm going to open this battery up and we'll take a look inside. I had to cut the case open off the camera. The battery case is totally sealed, so the only way to open it is to open it destructively. The BMS module is taped onto the top of the battery. As you can see here, it actually has foam pads on both sides of the BMS module, so it is pressed against the battery case pretty firmly, so no issues here. Originally, I thought the BMS was towards the side of the case, as from the thermal image earlier, I saw a slightly warmer spot on the side of the case. But you can see that the BMS is actually right in the middle here. I just charged up the battery, and you can see during charging, the BMS actually stayed relatively cool. So I think what we were seeing earlier was perhaps from the wiring touching the case, The wiring did get a little bit warm during charging, and that's not because of the capacity of the wiring, but rather it's the heat conducted through the terminal from the charger clamp. Speaking of wiring, you can see that the BMS is actually doing the load side switching, as here is the negative terminal. You can see that it's going through the BMS. This is fairly standard. And you can also see here, instead of using a single thicker diameter wire, they actually chose to use two smaller diameter wires to connect the negative terminal, and thus taking into consideration the current carrying capacity of the PCB. Spreading the wiring across a larger area allows it to carry the current more evenly. This is useful in high current situations, and also it exerts less stress on the PCB. And just by eyeballing it, the cables look like they are gauge 8 cables. We have 2 of them, so the combined current carrying capacity is definitely more than 50 amps, which is what is rated for the battery. Since I have access to all the cells here, let me actually see how well the cells are balanced. Let's see if you can see the meter here. .33, 3.4, 3.47, 3.47. So the cell voltages are within 20 millivolts after balancing, and that's fairly standard for these low-end BMS. Now let's take a look at the BMS. Towards the front, we have 2 headers. One is an SWD, or Serial Wire Debug Protocol header, for programming the onboard microcontroller. So I'm assuming they're using an STM32 or a similar ARM-based microcontroller in this BMS. To the right, we also have a UART port. Now, I tried to look at the signal present on the TX pin, but I didn't see anything earlier. So maybe this is reserved for a different model of the BMS. Now, I'd imagine you can probably, for example, use a UART to Bluetooth module and communicate the battery status to a smartphone. Of course, that feature is not present on this BMS. Here we also have an unused 2-pin header. On the silkscreen it says SW. I'm not exactly sure what it's used for though. You can see here we have 2 thermistors connected, T1 and T2, and one is tucked under the heatsink for measuring the BMS's temperature. The other one is actually mounted on the side of the battery. You can see here. Let me just zoom out. Let's see. See that it's right here. So that's a thermistor measuring the battery temperature. This battery has low temperature charging protection, and that is handled by the thermistor mounted on the side of the battery here. Now let me lift the BMS board so you can take a peek underneath. And you can see the underside of the BMS is foam padded. Let me zoom in a little bit more. The 4 prismatic cells used here are rather generic. There's no obvious marking here. And you can see that they are actually welded in series, and I can show you the weld here. The cells are securely glued onto the foam blocks on each corner. Not sure if you can see that. Unfortunately, everything's pretty dark here. Let me try to bring in light here. You can see that we have 4 corners. These are the foam blocks, and the cells are essentially glued onto them. Overall, the construction is pretty solid. As you can see, all the wirings here are properly glued down, and so are the cabling connectors. And here you can see that this is a balancing connector that is coming in. Now, since we have direct access to the BMS module, I'm actually running the load again and trying to see what the thermal profile looks like without the case here. So let's take a look here. And by the way, I'll take some pictures and overlay it so you can see that the BMS is actually still pretty cool. I can see that towards the back it's getting a little bit warm. That's where the MOSFETs are. So let me take another picture here and show you. And I have let it run for about 5 minutes now. Let me feel it. Yeah, it's still just lukewarm. And you can see from the thermal images, nothing to be concerned about. So this 50 amp hours Timeusb LiFePO4 battery performed reasonably well, with a measured capacity at right around 50 amp hours. I'm curious to see the long-term degradation and reliability of this battery, and I'll definitely report back if I encounter any issues. Anyway, I hope you find this video useful. If you liked the video, please remember to give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Your participation makes videos like this possible. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.